We're now going to go through the user preferences and discuss setting those. So the fundamental piece in Trade Unafraid is a trade plan, and that's what you create. So now we're going to talk about all the things that go into a trade plan. We are looking at this, though, in the user preferences. So what this means is you set up user preferences, and then these become your defaults for any new trade plan you create. And we'll talk about how these work. So right now we support only Tradier, so that's the brokerage. Account number, we will see the accounts from your login, and those are the ones we'll offer. Data source, we have live, obviously going to be trading real money, and sim or simulated, which allows you to do all you want, day or night, weekends, and it just simulates market prices. But for now, simulated is really a random walk. It's just prices moving randomly. Quantity basis. This is an important one. When you specify quantities, you can specify them either in dollars or in quantity. So for example, if I want to enter some position, I can either say I want to buy 10 contracts or 1,000 shares, or I can put in dollars and say I want to be in $2,000 of this. So when you enter a quantity, it's all going to be based on this quantity basis. And whatever you put in your preferences, you can override it when you're actually creating a trade plan. So don't worry, these just become your defaults. Work order. This is a verb, work. What it means is that we will try and get filled inside the spread. So if you have a bid and an ask that are wide enough, we will try and work that order to get you a better fill than just the buying on the ask or selling on the bid. It's kind of a strange name. Get away offset percent has to do with when we're going to give up and just accept the market price. So if things start getting away from you, meaning you're trying to get a better fill and the fill's actually getting worse on you, then once we hit this threshold, at this point it's 10%, then we'll just accept the market price. This is more important when you're trying to get out than it is when you're trying to get in. It's fine to miss a trade. It's not so fine to be stuck in a trade. So that's where this really matters. A percent between bid and ask means when we're trying to work an order, where should we start? So we'll start right in the middle. We could actually start closer to the bid when you're trying to buy and hope that price moves toward you, or you just get filled on a fluke. But anyway, these are configurable, but you can start at 50% here, and then every time we increase the order, we'll move it by 10%. And of course, rounding is involved here. So we can't do half pennies or things like that. So, depending on the bid and ask, these numbers will be rounded. Okay, so that's work order. All right, next is what instrument you want to trade. So we have stock, which is very simple, and then we have options, which are rather complex. So anyway, we're assuming that you're buying options, whether they're calls or puts. You can select in the money or out of the money or both, and you can select not expiring today. So if you don't like to trade Friday options, or in the SPY, if you don't want to trade Monday or Wednesday options, if they expire today, then you can click this. Now, within selecting options, we have some abilities as far as which options do you want to choose from. So for example, this needs to be a percentage, but this is 0.05 is 5%, meaning the max spread that we'll accept is a 5% spread between the bid and ask. So if you don't want to trade wide, unfavorable options, you can control that with this max spread. And of course you can check and uncheck these, meaning they will or will not be part of your setup. And then option price range. If you only want to trade cheap options, you can specify your min price and your max price. If you're fine with more expensive options on things like Amazon or the way Tesla used to be, you can put your max wherever you want it, or you can just say, I don't care about the option price, I'm more interested in the spreads, or I just want to trade, whatever is in the money. So that's all up to you. And there's more to selecting options than this. Okay. So there are entry tactics, there are setup tactics, and there are exit tactics. Within here, within the user preferences, you can configure your exit tactics. Entry tactics are done at the time of creating a trade plan. So these will be your defaults. So the exit tactics you can choose from, you can just have a loss limit in dollars. You can have preserve profit also in dollars. What that means is if you make some money, you never want to let a winner turn into a loser. If you're up money, then you can specify some amount to say, all right, let's say I'm up $50. I don't want this to become any smaller than a $25 winner. So then we will preserve that $50 profit. Of course, market movement and slippage makes it impossible to guarantee this, but when you get to the point where it looks like you're going to lose $25 on the remainder, then we will sell it so that you're left with a $25 profit. Underlying price trail, meaning if you're in options, but you want to trail the max price of max if you're long, min if you're short, but if you want to trail the price of the underlying stock, you can do that here, and you just specify the amount, the distance between the max or min price and your trailing price, your trailing stop. Honestly, I don't use this one. Not saying you shouldn't, but for me, I don't use that one or this one, but this is a position price trail. So what that means is if you're in either stock or options, this will be a price trail based on the actual price of what you're in. So where the underlying price trail would be for the stock when you're in the option, the position price trail would be either stock or option, but it's actually the price of what you are in. Candle trail, you can specify the candle duration, and you can specify whether you want to also include pre and post market data as part of this. But if you want to trail using 1 minute stops or 1 minute candles or 5 minute or 2 or 3 or 15 or an hour or a day, whatever you want, you can trail your stop based on candles. Grab sense. This is a much faster than a human being can do way to enter your target orders. So you can base them on either quantity or percentage, and that the reason is we don't necessarily know how many we're buying of in a trade plan. Are we doing this based on actual shares or contracts, or are we doing this based on some number of dollars? So typically it makes sense to do this in percentages. So let's say you want to take a 10-cent profit on the first 20% of your position. So you would put in 10 cents and then 20%. And then we do this comma separated, so it becomes an array of target cents to grab and an array of percent of your position. So here, let's say we do 10 cents and then 25 cents, and then for that 25 cents, we'll take another 50%. So that you now have, assuming you hit those targets, you've now closed 70% of your position. This is optional. You may or may not choose to do this, but you can have a trailing stop on the rest. So that remaining 30%, or maybe you don't want to do 30%, maybe you just want to do 15%, that you would trail by 25 cents. So now once you've hit these targets, the remaining, you don't have remaining 15%, you actually have remaining 30%, but 15% of it you're going to trail by 25 cents. The remaining 15% will be handled by all your other exit tactics. So all of these work together as a cohesive trade plan so that, your preserved profit may kick in and all of this gets overridden, or you may run into something else here that causes those positions to close. So what we allow you to do is to have multiple conflicting orders and that's why we call them soft orders, that all will be in effect at the same time. So this is actually very powerful. It's nothing like what it is to trade using standard trading tools, and that's why we call this dynamic position management. Ratchet brackets are a very interesting new innovation that we've come up with, and this is just the first version of this. So you can see right now the mode is equal interval. That's all we have at the moment. But this basically replaces grab sense with something more responsive and more dynamic. And what it basically does is that it lets you set a target, and in this case we're saying we want a 6-cent profit on 25% of our position